CM Punk, the straight-edge superstar, the man who once sat cross-legged on the stage in WWE and spent 10 minutes slandering the company live on their own airtime. Fans loved him because he wasn't the cookie-cutter musclehead Vince McMahon usually drooled over. Punk was smaller, scrappier, tattooed, and actually had charisma. He was the voice of the voiceless. Until, ironically, his voice got him fired. Let's rewind. Punk's WWE career was going great, until it wasn't. He became champion, headlined pay-per-views, and was adored by the fans. But behind the scenes, he hated Vince McMahon's guts. Punk said Vince was overworking him, ignoring his injuries, and feeding him terrible storylines. And if you've seen some of the garbage WWE churns out, you know Punk had a point. He once said he walked out because WWE doctors cleared him to wrestle with a staph infection. Nothing screams, "We care about our talent," like telling a guy, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just ignore that golf ball-sized infection trying to kill you." So in 2014, Punk finally snapped. He left WWE in the middle of his prime, sued the company doctor, buried Vince McMahon on a podcast, and basically slammed the door so hard it nearly fell off the hinges. Wrestling fans were gutted, but then came the shocking announcement. Punk wasn't done with combat sports. He was going to fight in the UFC. Now, let's just pause here. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, the top level of mixed martial arts. The company where fighters spend years grinding it out in tiny regional shows, fighting in gyms with 10 people watching, just for the slim chance of getting to the big stage. Punk, meanwhile, had exactly 0 amateur fights, 0 pro fights, and 0 evidence he could throw a punch that wouldn't break his own hand. But Dana White, never one to say no to free publicity, signed him anyway. Fans were split, some were hyped. Maybe Punk could actually surprise people. Others thought it was a terrible idea, like letting your uncle who brags about bar fights try his luck against a Navy SEAL. Still, Punk started training at Roufusport in Milwaukee, alongside real fighters like former UFC champion Tyron Woodley and one of the best coaches in the sport. And reports were cautiously optimistic. His teammates said he was working hard, learning fast, and looked sharp in training. Of course, nobody was going to tell the truth and say, "Yeah, he looks like a dad doing a boxercise class." They smiled and said he was coming along fine. For 2 years, fans debated, would Punk shock the world, or would he get knocked out in 30 seconds? And in true fake-it-till-you-make-it fashion, at the weigh-in, he even refused to shake Mickey Gall's hand, trying to stare him down like it was a scene out of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The problem was, Punk looked less like Clint Eastwood and more like a guy waiting for his kebab order at 3 a.m. The truth is, most pundits thought he didn't stand a chance. I mean, just look at this clip from Overeem asking about Punk's MMA experience.
Does he have any martial arts background? You were talking about
he's been training jiu-jitsu, striking.
So he's like a blue belt?
No.
Not even a blue belt? A white belt? A white belt jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so...
But CM Punk had a trick up his sleeve he thought would make the difference. Self-delusion. He thought if he said he will win enough, maybe the MMA gods would grant him some leniency. He couldn't have been more wrong.
What are your expectations? My expectations are to win. Go out there, whether it goes 3 rounds, whether it goes 3 seconds, my hand will get raised. That's what I expect.
Punk's opponent, Mickey Gall, wasn't just some random pick either. He'd actually called Punk out after winning his UFC debut, saying he wanted to be the guy to welcome the ex-wrestler to the cage.
Still think about one guy. I want to be fed. I'm hungry. Feed me CM Punk, please.
And the thing is, Gall wasn't some tomato can. He was young, hungry, and dangerous. The UFC loved it, Dana White loved it, and Punk, with 0 fights to his name, was suddenly matched up against a shark when he could barely doggy paddle. Finally, the night came. September 10th, 2016. CM Punk made his long-awaited debut at UFC 203. The hype was insane. Punk walked to the cage with his trademark intensity, looking like he was ready to fight for his life. And then the bell rang. It took exactly 3 seconds for everyone to realize this was going to be ugly. Gall rushed across the cage, took Punk down like he was a bag of potatoes, and proceeded to beat him up. It wasn't competitive. It wasn't close. It was like watching a cat toy with a dead mouse. Punk tried to scramble, tried to fight back, but it looked like a kid drowning in a ball pit. Within 2 minutes, Gall choked him out. That was it. Punk's big debut ended in humiliation. Most people would take the hint. Okay, I gave it a shot. Didn't work out. Time to move on. But Punk? No, he doubled down.
And I didn't get to the summit today, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I will be back, believe it or not.
He said he'd keep training, keep improving, and come back better. And UFC, seeing the dollar signs still flashing, gave him another shot. Now, before we get to his second fight, and trust me, it's a masterpiece in disaster, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Unlike Punk's UFC career, this channel actually has a future, and it helps me keep bringing you wild stories like this one. Fast forward to June 2018. Punk's second fight, this time against journeyman Mike Jackson, a guy with a 0-1 record. On paper, this was winnable. Jackson wasn't exactly Anderson Silva. Fans thought maybe, just maybe, Punk could pull it off. But here's the kicker. The UFC actually put this fight on the main card of UFC 225. Two fighters with 0 professional wins between them, placed above far more deserving matchups. Actual fighters were furious. Fans complained.
Hey, let this sink in. You got CM Punk versus that, I forget his name, Jackson. Overeem, Curtis Blaze, Claudio Gadeja, Esparza.
That's so disgusting.
And then on the undercard, you got Rashad Evans. And my boy, Joey Benavidez versus Pettis.
Oh,
CM
so
Punk said,
crazy.
take a seat, y'all.
That is so crazy.
But Dana White knew what he was doing. Punk might not bring skill, but he brought eyeballs. Then the fight started. To say it was bad would be an understatement. It was dreadful. Punk's striking looked like someone trying VR boxing for the first time. His punches had less sting than a wet paper towel. Jackson, instead of finishing him, decided to clown around, sticking his tongue out, dancing, and dragging the fight on. The crowd booed. Dana White nearly had an aneurysm watching from cage side. Punk got battered for 3 full rounds. He showed heart, sure, but so would anyone who refuses to quit while being repeatedly punched in the face. The decision came in. Mike Jackson won easily. Punk was now 0-2 in the UFC, and his dream of being an MMA fighter was officially over. But the real kicker wasn't Punk's performance. It was Dana White's reaction. He was furious, not at Punk, but at Mike Jackson. Dana accused Jackson of acting like a goof and not finishing Punk when he had the chance.
Not happy with this guy was acting like a goofball tonight. You get this opportunity to come in and fight CM Punk and you're doing like bolo punches to the body on top. Never looked like he was trying to finish the fight ever, right? Looked like he could have finished the fight a few times. Never tried. I don't know what that guy did for a living before we gave him the shot, but whatever it was, he needs to go back and do that again. He's 0-2 as far as I'm concerned.
White was so annoyed, he actually cut Jackson from the UFC, banning him from fighting in the promotion again. Think about that. Dana White was basically saying, how dare you prolong CM Punk's suffering? Just finish him so we can put this poor man out of his misery. It was like the ending of Mice and Men, where George has to put down Lenny. After that, Punk never fought in MMA again. His UFC experiment was over. He went back to doing commentary for cage fighting shows and eventually returned to wrestling years later. But his time in the UFC lives on as one of the strangest, most disastrous experiments in combat sports history. CM Punk left WWE because he hated being mistreated, he wanted respect, he wanted control, and instead he ended up getting his head punched in twice on the biggest stage possible in front of millions of people. Respect? Not so much. Entertainment? Absolutely. Punk will always be remembered as the guy who gave it a shot, but also as the guy who proved that maybe, just maybe, pro wrestling and real fighting aren't quite the same thing. So what do you think? Should Punk have even been in the UFC to begin with? Or was it worth it just for the comedy? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before you go. Unlike CM Punk's fighting career, this channel isn't getting cut short anytime soon.